It is Throwback Thursday, the first one of 2025. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Maurice Patton. That's David Wilson. We are Main Street Sports Today, and we're proud to be with you here to open the new year for the next couple of hours, talking local, regional, and national sports topics. Going to be fun um, as we try to stay warm. David, what's up?
Well, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I am trying. This camera shot is that's the best camera shot. I love it because it conveniently crops out the logo that's on your top that you're sporting today in uh yeah, there. In anticipation of today's Sugar Bowl matchup that we'll be talking more about here in a bit. But yeah, I forgot when I asked you to come on today that you were a Notre Dame fan, but
You don't have to
I
treat me
get
like that, Mo. Come on
yeah.
now.
Well, I guess we can suffer through it for the next couple of hours. But yeah, we're looking forward to this next couple of hours as we get back into the swing of things. Obviously, we have taken a bit of a holiday break. Hope you all were able to as well. Hope you had a great holiday and again, just ready to get back into the swing of things here, I guess. In the next hour, we will be joined by Nashville based football official Russ Pulley, who officiated his last game this past weekend. And we were lucky enough to be able to get him to come on with us here to talk about his officiating career, most of it in the Southeastern Conference. And looking forward to that. I always enjoy talking to officials, man. David does a little officiating himself, and so I'm thinking this is going to be a great segment here in the second hour when we get Russ Pulley on. In the next segment on Coach's Corner, we will be joined by Tucker CATHEY, the wrestling coach down at Franklin, as the Admirals are hosting a Hall of Fame event this evening, and gonna get Tucker to shed a little more light on what that's entailing. So, looking forward to getting the Admirals wrestling coach on in the next segment. We'll also be talking some college football, plenty to talk about, in addition to, again, this game coming up at the top of the hour between Georgia and Notre Dame down in New Orleans. And it is Throwback Thursday. We will throw it back to a recent conversation that we had with Scott Ramsey, the CEO of the Nashville Sports Council. They got a lot going on. They're recovering now, I guess, or bouncing back. Recovering might not be the right word, but the Music City Bowl this past weekend, with Iowa and Missouri coming to town, pretty good ball game actually, better than I had anticipated. So good pick for Scott and the folks at the Nashville Sports Council. Again, we will hear from him at the top of the 3 o'clock hour, and yeah, we'll get into the grab bag as well because there's plenty of loose ends to tie up and plenty of stuff going on, including the Southeastern Conference women's basketball schedule opens tonight. Conference play begins for the 16 teams in the conference. 16, remember? So we'll be talking a little bit about that. We'll talk a little Preds because we kind of have to, I guess. And the Grizzlies have been rolling, man. So let's catch up on them as well. But yeah, there's plenty going on and plenty that we have missed probably here over the last few days. But we're going to try to get into as much of that as we can here over the next hour and 56 minutes as the clock ticks. So David, how was your holiday, man?
It was good. I enjoyed it. Spent some time with the family on Christmas, obviously, and then yesterday on New Year's Day, spent time with the family, eating some mini steaks, some grilled cabbage, some fried apples, all the good things, and watched some football. Some biscuits over there as well. So it was good. Now ready to watch this game this afternoon, and I'll be on pins and needles, maybe with a trash can next to me if I feel like I need to throw up. But I'm excited for that football game tonight, and obviously excited for the new year and what 2025 has in store for all of us, especially here at Main Street Media.
Absolutely. That sounds like you did have a great downtime there and did some good eating. Sounds like mom hooked you up. So yeah, that's good. That's good. Um let's go ahead and get into things with some recent results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Full girls basketball action on New Year's Eve. This was Tuesday, December 31st. Brentwood Academy 51-23 winners over Centennial. Mercy Academy out of Louisville, Kentucky 55-33 win over Springfield. And the Webb School, the Lady Feet, a 60-53 win over Brentwood down there at Page High School. Boys basketball action on New Year's Eve. Friendship Christian, 80-54 winners over Tennessee Prep. And MHEA out of Memphis, a homeschool out of Memphis, 46-45 winners over Springfield High School. Women's basketball action on New Year's Eve, Bryan College, a 53-42 win over Cumberland. Men's basketball action on Tuesday, University of Tennessee, 67-52 winners over Norfolk State. And on Wednesday, on New Year's Day, Northern Iowa, a 76-70 win over Belmont. In the association, as Mo mentioned earlier, the Grizzlies keep it rolling on New Year's Eve, 117-112 win over the Phoenix Suns. And the Preds dropped another one on Tuesday night, a 5-3 loss to the Minnesota Wild.
High school basketball today. We got doubleheader action as Giles County travels to Lincoln County. That's a 6 o'clock start for the girls, boys to follow. Same at Summertown as Zion Christian makes the trip over there. All Eagles all the time, huh? 6 o'clock, Zion Christian at Summertown. Women's basketball action, 5 o'clock tip on ESPN Plus at Southeast Missouri State at Gentry Center, taking on the Tennessee State Lady Tigers in Ohio Valley Conference action. 6 o'clock on ESPN Plus, it's Eastern Kentucky at Austin Peay. Also at 6, also on ESPN Plus, North Florida is at Lipscomb. At 6:30, we mentioned SEC women's basketball heating up. Georgia comes to Memorial Gym taking on Vanderbilt. Again, that's a 6:30 tip. You can see it on ESPN Plus. Also on ESPN Plus, also at 6:30. At the Glass House, Florida International comes to take on the Lady Raiders. Another 6:30 tip, it's Belmont out at Springfield, Missouri, taking on Missouri State. Again, 6:30 ESPN Plus. And at 7 on ESPN Plus, it's Tennessee at Texas A&M. Men's basketball, we've got one game that is in progress, I guess, as Austin Peay is at North Florida. That was a 1 o'clock tip there. You can catch up with it on ESPN Plus. 5 o'clock starts for Blue Mountain at Cumberland. Bethel at UT Southern. At 6, Lipscomb is at Jacksonville. That game is on ESPN Plus. Also at 6, also on ESPN Plus, Middle Tennessee State's men are at Florida International. And at 7:30, the back end of a doubleheader on ESPN Plus, it's the SEMO men at Gentry Center taking on Tennessee State. College football action, again, at the top of the hour, it is Notre Dame and Georgia at the Sugar Bowl down in New Orleans. That's a 3 o'clock start. You can see it on ESPN. That will be followed at 7 on ESPN by the Gator Bowl between Duke and Ole Miss. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options, as well as their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And as we have mentioned, the Sugar Bowl, which was supposed to be played last night in New Orleans, is instead being played at 3 o'clock today in New Orleans as a result of a tragic incident late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, as a motorist drove into a crowd on Bourbon Street, and at least 14 dead now and about twice that or more injured. And you know, it's a tough situation from a number of standpoints when something like that takes place, and the game got pushed back, and we've heard reports of, you know, fans having to leave. Obviously, the logistics of it, you know, when you make a trip like that, you don't count on the game getting postponed and everything else. And it's tough, but at the same time, it's really a bad look to complain about it because, hey, whatever inconvenience you've got, as long, at least you're getting to deal with it. I mean, it's just a tough situation down there. And our thoughts are with the folks who were, adversely impacted by that situation.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman and Kirby Smart just did interviews with ESPN about 30 minutes ago, Mo, and they both kind of summed up and said that there's some things that are bigger than football, and there was no, I guess, doubt in their minds that that game needed to be delayed for the safety of not only the players in both teams, but the fans and the people that live in New Orleans as well. Let the FBI and the local police department get to the bottom of what exactly happened and make sure that everybody is safe. So I know that both teams are ready to hit the field this afternoon and try to give the people of New Orleans and those fans, I guess, give them some peace of mind and just play football for a while and let them get away from that. But it's just kind of a sad situation, and it's sad that we still kind of live in this world where things like that happen here, especially in the United States.
I think as much as anything, give them time to sort that out, but also not taking resources away from what they need to get done with that situation by, having to deal with a football game with 80,000 folks in the stadium on top of everything else. So, with all of the resources that an event like the Sugar Bowl takes up, they probably needed to put that elsewhere in the immediate aftermath of what took place down there again, late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. So, I mean, hats off to the city of New Orleans for, dealing with that as best they can, and for officials, everybody around this game, which, like you said, and like, Smart and Freeman said, it really becomes secondary at a time like this. I really feel like postponing the game was the only decision that could be made. It's just unfortunate, for, the folks that went down there in anticipation of being able to see it, and just the logistics of not being able to stick around for an extra day. And as friend of the show, Nubias Wilborn pointed out on social media earlier today, it'll be interesting to see how different media outlets cover this event, because that extra night in New Orleans, there are budgets that have to be dealt with, and there is money that has to be spent, and it's there are some decisions that I'm sure have had to be made in a lot of sports departments and that kind of thing. So, and it's just a tough situation all the way around.
Yeah, Laura Rutledge from ESPN also made a really good point. This isn't the only major event that New Orleans is set to host within the next month. They're going to host the Super Bowl here in February, and the logistics that come with hosting the Super Bowl is very big as well, and the amount of people that are going to come to I guess, descend on New Orleans for a Super Bowl. So I think they have to be very careful, sweep this out and make sure they dot their I's and cross their T's and make sure that everything is safe, because, I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of people there for the Sugar Bowl, but I think that pales into comparison with the magnitude of a Super Bowl and what that brings.
Yeah. Now the thing is, if there's any city that's prepared for, big events, big crowds, that kind of thing, it is New Orleans. They've had plenty of experience with it. And I'm sure that they will get everything buttoned up and taken care of. But it's a tragic occurrence, obviously, and you hate to see it. I really don't know much more to say than that. But Georgia, Notre Dame kicks off at the top of the hour, and so if you see either of us gazing elsewhere during that hour, just mind your business. We're watching the game. Anyway, let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today. When we come back, we will be joined by Franklin wrestling coach Tucker CATHEY. Speaking of events, he's got one this evening. Stick around after this.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
This holiday season, the largest lantern festival in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. Experience more than 1,000 all-new, handcrafted lanterns, towering creatures, magical worlds, and a North Pole village. At the center of it all, the Smashville Ice Rink. Welcome back to Zoolumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Thursday here on Main Street Sports, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson. I'm Maurice Patton, and we are pleased to be joined on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party, by Franklin wrestling coach Tucker CATHEY. The Admirals are hosting an event this evening that I wanted to get Coach CATHEY to kind of enlighten us on a little bit. So, Tucker, thanks for joining us. First of all, what is it you've got going on? Because I got a Facebook solicitation that I needed to be over there this evening. So, tell me what's up.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Tonight, we're going to honor we're going to have our alumni duel. So we'll be hosting all former Franklin High School wrestlers, and tonight we'll be honoring our 2005 dual team state champion. So we'll have that kicked off right at 6 o'clock tonight before our duel against Clarksville. Okay.
Now, when you say alumni duels, this isn't alumni wrestling, is it?
No, I think some of those guys could still scrap, but no, this is just going to be to honor the guys that set the stone of our program, and a good way to honor them. We did this in 2018 when Andrew Thompson was at Franklin. We had about 6 or 7 guys, and out of those, 4 of them were coaching that night. Josh Peck, myself, Andrew Thomason, Tommy Badon, Doug Badon, and Dustin Ortiz. So we had a slight showing, but tonight we're expecting a big crowd. This will be our 20-year anniversary of that dual team state championship. So we're excited to, get those guys back in the building, have them tour the room, see the improvements that we made, the things that we want to upgrade. It's just a good way to get them back.
That's awesome. I mean, anything that you can do, like you said, to kind of keep those folks involved and keep those, like you said, those cornerstones of your program, kind of top of mind as best you can. That's a good thing. And so props to you and to the program for doing that. Now, who are y'all wrestling tonight?
Tonight we'll be wrestling Clarksville. So we'll have the the Badon family in the building, and another guy that we'll honor tonight being selected into the Tennessee Hall of Fame. So it's a good way to honor him and that family of a big contributor to our Franklin High School team.
Awesome. So it's just you and Clarksville then, just a 2-team duel tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we wanted to keep it small. We want to have a really nice, banquet for our guys. Something that they can, come back to. And sorry, I'm at Nolensville right now, and there's kids running around.
Oh.
It's just something small. Honor those guys that have been there, and just a good opportunity for them to see us wrestle and not have to be there for 2 hours for a double duel.
That's great. So how's the season going to this point?
Say what?
I said, how's the season going so far for the ads?
It's going well. We just got back from Florida. We wrestled at the Bulls Duels in Tampa. Came home with a second place finish. Lost to a really tough Brandon team, and a pretty close duel. We had some swing matches that didn't go our way, but we finished the day 4-1. Got a lot of really good matches, and just a good bonding team experience going all the way down there.
Okay, all right. Brandon, I've heard that name. They're typically pretty good.
Yeah, they're a pretty predominantly power team down there in the Central Florida. Last year they beat us pretty good. This year they didn't beat us as bad. So it was a good momentum thing for us coming back into Tennessee and getting ready to start our region dual tournament season.
Tucker, you've had a couple of guys last year that obviously made it to the state tournament and were competing for state championships at the Williamson Expo Center. Who are some guys early on in the year as we head into January, into region and district matches that are standing out to you as individuals that can buy to get back to the Expo Center?
Yeah, so Aiden Elmore, our 215, he finished 5th last year. He had a really good sectionals and state tournament. Looking to build on that experience and come into this year healthy. He was a little banged up last year, but he's ready to roll. Nate Freeman, he took 3rd at Bradley before we went to Florida. Went 4-1 in Florida, so I'm expecting him to have a really good regional, sectional, state tournament. Durham Queen, he went through the gauntlet in Florida. The 190 weight class down there is really tough. But he really competed really well. Hudson Minor, our 150-pounder, he's another one that, these tournaments we've been to, it's going to be hard. So we're expecting those hard matches to really translate into something really special in our qualifying tournament. So he's another one that we're keeping an eye on. Grayson Morgan, a young guy, he's, another one that's medaled at McCauley and Bradley. And, we're looking for him to have a really good state run. Paul Schultz, another one that's been really tough. We got a really good team. They did a really good job this summer. Our coach Kyle did a really good job with them and freestyle Greco and getting them ready this offseason. So we're excited about this team and getting ready to make this region dual run and head all into the state with really peaking at the right time.
Tucker CATHEY, wrestling coach at Franklin, joining us here on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley Eat, Play, Party. Tucker, this is a tough time of year, or it can be a tough time of year with the holidays and weight management and that kind of thing. What are your concerns, or do you have concerns along those lines as you're coming out of this break and getting ready for this, region duels push and everything that January brings?
Weight's really not been a big thing for our program. We're one of the blessed ones that has a wrestling room. So we'll crank it up pretty good Monday through Tuesday or Monday through Thursday, and we'll get that weight off of them. So weight's not really a big thing that we really worry about. We just try to keep our mindset on competing and, scoring as many points as we can. So it's a huge blessing for us to have that room to keep that weight off of.
That is a huge blessing, because I know not everybody has that. So yeah, that's great to have that and have that support from your administration and that kind of thing. I know the Drennan Invitational is this weekend down at Father Ryan. Will y'all be competing in that?
We will. That's another big tournament that we always look forward to every year. Getting in there Friday and then Saturday, so it's a big tournament. It's probably one of the toughest ones. I always joke, if there's a tournament on track that's on the first page, it's pretty tough. So it's normally a first page track tournament. So we're excited.
That's great. David?
Yeah, Coach, how valuable, you kind of mentioned going to Florida before the holidays, going to McCallie, going to the Father Ryan tournament as well. How valuable is that for your wrestlers to get that experience as they continue to head into region dual play and obviously trying to get to the state tournament?
Yeah, we say iron sharpens iron, and if you want to be the best, you got to wrestle the best. So, we've really put them through the gauntlet these last 2 years, going all these tournaments. And then using Florida, it's kind of a, team bonding, and we called it like a training camp where, we're up at 8, we're running, we're lifting. We went on a nice little 3-mile beach run on Friday before we competed. Wasn't what they're used to or normally used to, Destin, Florida with the nice sandy beaches, but this one was all shells. So we really got tough running on the seashells on the beach. So, it's a good time. It's another way for us to kind of manage, rehab, prehab, stuff like that. So using that time and that opportunity to get through these tournaments and the tough times. And then we get 3 days in Florida where it's, sunshine and 80 degrees. It's really nice. So
I guess if you got to run somewhere, there are worse places to run, right?
That's right. I was walking with one of our guys that has a bum knee, so it was nice to kind of soak in the rays and walk through the water.
Cool. You've got Clarksville tonight. You've got the Drennan Invitational this weekend, Friday, Saturday, down at Father Ryan. What other big tournaments do you have coming up here in the next little bit?
So Tuesday we'll start our region dual run, and we have Ravenwood, and then we'll have Hillsboro, and then this coming Saturday we'll have our Franklin Invitational.
Okay.
So we'll be looking at 25 teams for boys and 20 for the girls. So it's a fun experience, fun tournament to run. I'm always looking forward to hosting and having all the guys come in town and compete.
I'm always fascinated, Tucker, when teams host tournaments, because as a coach, your attention is obviously a little divided between trying to make sure everything goes off well and trying to get your guys in the right place and get them to the top of the podium. It's almost like that part of it almost takes a back seat to running the event. How do you like hosting?
Yeah, that's a great point. We hosted the region tournament 2 years ago. Same, we set up, did the normal thing, and we didn't wrestle as well. So the following year, last year, I said, this is not our tournament. We're going to a new tournament. We're going to have the same mindset like we're walking in a new gym. Jared Grindstaff handles track. So I said, we're going to do this. We're going to focus on wrestling. We're not worried about running this tournament. We're just going to make sure that we have our mindset on, competing and wrestling. And, I've got a great coaching staff that, Kyle and those guys can really focus on the coaching aspect. And, Coach Philby, who focuses more on the outside part of it where he can, clean bathrooms and take care of refs and do stuff like that. And, I've got a great team around us with, staff at Franklin, and, they do a great job of helping out whenever I need it. So it's been a good learning adventure for me, as we start into this crazy stuff.
That's great. Tucker, CATHEY, Franklin wrestling coach, the Admirals hosting Clarksville in their Hall of Fame event this evening. Now, tell me again, what's the timing of everything this evening?
So we're going to weigh in at 5:30. All alumni will have a social in the cafeteria starting about 5:30. We're just going to do a state of the program. We're going to talk about our club team, run by Patrick Dooley, a former state champion at Franklin. Kyle Lee's an assistant and our girls head coach at Franklin. Just a good way to, reintroduce the guys that hadn't probably been around for a while back into what we're trying to do as a program and try to, keep those same core values that we had when, I was there. I was a part of that '05 team. So, it'd be good to see them and, try to get them back into our room, into our program, and continue that legacy of, tough wrestling in Middle Tennessee goes through Franklin.
As a Franklin graduate, that's nice to hear. So I appreciate that. Now, as a Centennial parent, it might not be so nice to hear, but at any rate, Tucker CATHEY, Franklin wrestling coach, big event over there tonight. Be sure and get out and check out the Admirals and Clarksville and Franklin grad Tommy Badon. Tucker, we appreciate you taking some time with us here on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley Eat Play Party, and we'll catch up.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Hey, let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll talk a little college football. Stay tuned after the break.
Do you wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's David Wilson. I'm Maurice Patton. In the next segment, we will be throwing it back to a recent conversation that we had with Scott Ramsey of the Nashville Sports Council, talking about a lot that they've had going on, including the Music City Bowl that just wrapped up with Iowa and Missouri, but also obviously the FCS championship games that they secured for 26 and 27 following the 25 and 26 seasons, because they'll be played in January those years, but and much other stuff. So again, if you didn't get to hear this the first time around, be sure and check it out. It's always fascinating when we're able to get Scott Ramsey locked down for a few minutes to talk with us, and this was no exception. Right now though, college football. David, you said you watched a lot of it yesterday. There was a lot of it to watch, and two of the playoff games over the last 36 hours were pretty anticlimactic. Penn State doing what most folks expected them to do against Boise, 31-14 out at the Fiesta. I don't think anybody really expected Ohio State to run through Oregon the way they did at the Rose Bowl yesterday, 41-21. But the Peach Bowl suddenly got entertaining. It looked like it was going in the same direction, and then all of a sudden Arizona State said, whoa, hold up, we're not done yet, and forced overtime, got a lead, and just couldn't close it out. Texas with the 39-31 win there. But some entertaining in spots football in the playoffs. I mean, again, Ohio State, Oregon, not necessarily entertaining, but the fascination with this Ohio State team, how did that team that played yesterday in Pasadena lose to Michigan?
Yeah, that's the enigma or the question that surrounds Ryan Day and Ohio State. When that Ohio State team is clicking on all cylinders, I'll be frank with you, there is no better team in the country. They're the most talented team in the country in my eyes. Them in Georgia, if you just want to put pure talent on the football field, they're top of the class. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but Jeremiah Smith is unreal. He would be the number one.
I don't think it's prisoner of the moment at all, man. I think that kid is the best receiver in college football.
This might be blasphemous to say, but I already think he's better than Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, he has the potential to be one of the best wide receivers in Ohio State program history, and that is a factory of wide receivers that can be down there. I mean, that guy's talent is unreal. I think that if it was this year and he was coming out, he would be the number one pick by far. I mean, that's a game-changing player, his speed, his size. But as I said before, when they're clicking on all cylinders, Ohio State is a really tough team to beat. And I think we can now look, man, Tennessee probably didn't play as bad as Oregon did. I mean, Ohio State is just a really good football team. And the seniors and the leadership and the guys that have played a lot of football in their defense, it showed yesterday. I mean, Oregon could not run the football at all. Ohio State dominated the line of scrimmage, and Caleb Downs is all over the place, the transfer from Alabama. I mean, that kid is a unanimous All-American for a reason. So Ohio State has talent. And when they put it together, they're hard to beat. And as you said, that just makes the question of, how did they lose to Michigan? But I'll say this, though. I think Ohio State fans or the people that were trying to run off Ryan Day after that, I think if you could go on a run like this, I think you would lose to Michigan every year if you knew that you could probably get a national championship out of it.
It's an interesting question because I'm not necessarily sure that that's the case. I mean, the Michigan game means a lot to those people. And, I mean, I'd be interested to get 10 Ohio State fans in a room and ask them that. Would you trade a win over Michigan for a national championship?
I think you take the national championship.
I think you do, but I'm not sure it's as cut and dried as you think. Because I mean, that school up north and that kind of thing, there's a lot that goes with that. But
you know, I've not heard this over the last couple hours ever since last night's game, but I think this is more of an indictment in the factor that we need to have reseeding in this era of the college football playoff. Oregon was your number one seed. They were the best team in the country through the regular season, and they got rewarded with a bye to then play maybe the most talented team in the country in Ohio State. Whereas I'm not going to say this, but Penn State got to play Boise State, who was, clearly a more inferior team than what Ohio State was, obviously. So I think there needs to be reseeding going into the second round after the first round. Because, I mean, you knew that Oregon was going to face a tough challenge no matter what, whether it was Ohio State or Tennessee. You were getting a team coming off a victory in the Rose Bowl, and that was going to be tough to beat. If you think about it, Mo, all the lower seeds have won so far. So that might fare good for my Notre Dame Fighting Irish in a little bit, but the lower seeds have won. And so that might just show you right there that there needs to be some restructuring after the first round.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of things that, once you come out of this first year of the playoffs in their entirety, I think you're going to hear about a lot of potential tweaks, necessary tweaks, and it'll be interesting to see how those get handled and that kind of thing. But yeah, maybe once you come up with your 12, you just give the top 4 buys instead of conference champions or something. I don't know, because maybe Arizona State and Boise State didn't necessarily deserve the buys. I don't know.
What are your thoughts on the non-targeting call in the Texas Arizona State game? Because that's a call that changes the game right there.
That's a tough no call there. And it's interesting. Doug Gottlieb, basketball coach / talk show host, tweeted that yes, it was targeting, but you don't call it there. And that was the absolute stupidest thing that you could say. I mean, either it is or it's not. And if it is, you call it. And if it's not, you don't. But it's not yet. It was targeting, but you don't call it. The more I looked at it, the more convinced I was that it was targeting. I mean, it's leading with the head. It kind of felt textbook definition of targeting right there. And
right. Forgive me, I forget who was the color on the game last night for Arizona and Texas, but I remember them making a really good point, and this kind of sums up of, I don't know what Texas is, and I don't know what they are this year, even though we've seen them play a handful of football games this year. They were playing with their food yesterday. They had the opportunity early in the game to run away from Arizona State, and they let one player in particular, Kim Scadaboo, lead Arizona State back, where you can make the argument that Arizona State should have won the football game. They had them 4th and 13. Had them 4th and 13 in overtime with a chance to win the game. They all out blitz, and they leave Matthew Golden wide open for the touchdown. But I don't know what Texas is, and the fact that they're playing Ohio State, who looks like world beaters the last 2 weeks in the semifinals, it just makes me think that Ohio State is going to go to the national championship game. So I'm not sure what Texas is. I'm not a Quinn Ewers guy. I feel like he's a statue. He doesn't have a lot of mobility. But I don't know. I think Texas. I don't know what they are. They benefited from a weaker SEC schedule, and they were fortunate enough to play Arizona State and Clemson their first 2 games, and not have to play against a team that might be as talented on the field, prospect-wise, as they are.
Well, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. The best team that they played beat them twice. I'm not real sure what Texas is either. I've never really been sold on Quinn Ewers. I mean, he's not bad, but he's not – I don't think he's a guy that you expect or that you should expect to go out and win a ball game for. I mean, he did convert that 4th and 13. But, under normal circumstances, Texas has got a lot of nice pieces. I think this Ohio State game should be really interesting.
Right. There was rumors going around that if Quinn Ewers decided not to go to the NFL and he entered the transfer portal, he could get up to $6 million. I don't believe that. I think that's Texas paying the $6 million to him to leave. But I think that Arch Manning is the more mobile quarterback, and I think they're ready for him to take the reins there. But if I close my eyes and I think about it, Mo, and I was like, right now, if I had to pick an SEC quarterback to have on my team, Quinn Ewers is not the guy. I'll pick Lenore Sellers from South Carolina. I'll pick DJ Lagway before him, guys that are more athletic, that can move, that can throw the football. So Quinn Ewers just doesn't do that for me. He's won a lot of football games, and he can win you a game, but elite talent, first-round pick, I don't see that.
I don't know who's paying him $6 million.
Nobody is.
I don't know.
I
don't know what the quarterback situation is at the school that's paying him $6 million. So, that might have a lot to do with that valuation. I mean, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, right? So, I mean, if you don't have a quarterback and you have a chance to get a Quinn Ewers, then that's one thing. But that seems a little much to me. So, again, Penn State Tuesday night with the 31-14 win over Boise. Are we ready to say that James Franklin has won a big game? Personally, no. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think they've beaten anybody that they weren't supposed to beat. They beat SMU.
Yeah.
They beat SMU in Happy Valley. They beat Boise State. I mean, I think the shock would have been if they had lost either of those games. So.
Yeah, they thoroughly controlled the line of scrimmage against Boise State, and their tight end is phenomenal. Warren, he can go down the field and make passes. He's a good pass catcher. Now, here's the real question. What are your thoughts on Drew Aller?
I think he's looked better, but, I mean, again, it was against SMU and Boise State, so I don't know. I mean, it's, between him and Will Howard, I mean, Howard has looked like a world beater here in these last couple of games all of a sudden. And, maybe he wasn't as bad during the season as a lot of people made him out to be. I don't know, but Howard has looked fantastic, again, against Tennessee and against Oregon. And maybe that Tennessee loss doesn't look as bad now as it did after what Ohio State did yesterday against Oregon. But
right.
There were folks. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
There were folks pushing Drew Aller as a potential Heisman candidate, maybe for next year. I don't know. If Warren's coming back, then yeah. Because
my thoughts on Will Howard are this, Mo. Obviously, he has the most talented roster in the country in my eyes. You have Quinshon Judkins, transfer from Ole Miss, in the backfield. You got Trevion Henderson. You got Ibuka. You have Jeremiah Smith. That's your weapons on offense. I think you can throw a lot of quarterbacks in that scenario and be successful. So I think you're just asking him, and this isn't a slap on him. You're just asking him to manage the game. You're just asking him not to turn the football over, get us in the right checks, get us in the right protections, and let us succeed. I think there is some potential in Drew Aller. If he comes back to college another year, he has some arm strength. He has some, I guess, wittiness and smarts about him where he can manage an offense. I think there's something to work with there on the NFL level. But, I think Penn State, you can't blame them. They took advantage of the system. They got to play SMU at home in a cold environment, and they overmatched them defensively. And then they got to play Boise State, and they did exactly what you wanted them to do. I mean, Penn State could run the ball at will against Boise, and they did a good job of containing Ashton Genty. So,
yeah, I think that was probably the biggest thing that they did too, was keep him from doing a whole lot of damage. I mean, they made him really, mount up some carries to get the yardage that he got. So, I think that was, what's the word I'm looking? He was their primary focal point, I guess, in the defensive room, and obviously for good reason. So I think he finally got his 100 yards, but again, he really had to rack up a lot of carries to get there. So tough day for him.
I know there's a lot of people that have been disappointed so far because, this was hyped up as, the best thing for college football, the 12-team playoff. I think a lot of people have been disappointed so far that the games have kind of been so large in the spread, if that makes sense, Mo. But I think we saw this in the 14 playoff as well, where we had semifinals that were blowouts. We've had national championship games that were blowouts. I just think this year there was the frustration because we never thought there was a clear best team in the country throughout the year. I know Oregon went undefeated, but I don't think anybody thought that Oregon was unbeatable, if that makes sense. Alabama had their flaws throughout the regular season. Ohio State had their flaws. Georgia most definitely had their flaws. I mean, they went to 6 overtimes with little brother Georgia Tech. So there was no clear best team in the country. But I think Ohio State, as they have shown the last couple of weeks, when they're clicking, they're hard to beat. And so we'll see if any other team can contend with that.
I think that's kind of the storyline the rest of the way at this point is, can anybody, slow them down when they are on their A game? First off, they got to be on their A game 2 more games, but if they get there, can anybody else meet them there? So
yeah, they're going to be playing in a road game next week at Jerry World against Texas. That is a road game for Ohio State. Now, I know their fans travel well, but you're going into Texas's backyard to play them in a semifinal game. I just know that happens kind of the way the schedule worked out, that the Cotton Bowl was able to host that event. But Texas being able to play in Texas at home, against Ohio State. That's going to be a great atmosphere and really going to be a test for Ohio State. If they get through that one, I think you would feel really good about their chances of at least picking them to win the national championship.
Yeah, you would feel comfortable picking them if they win that game. And spoiler alert, probably I would feel pretty comfortable picking them to win that game. So I'm just not sure, for all of the reasons that you just enumerated a little bit ago about Texas. I'm not sure that Texas can do enough to beat Ohio State right now. So looking forward to that ball game. It's going to be a barn burner, I think. So it wouldn't be college football if we did not talk a little bit about some transfer portal action. Chance Fitzgerald, former Nolensville High School standout who signed with Virginia Tech out of high school, spent 2 seasons up in Blacksburg, has signed with Vanderbilt. It's my understanding he'll have 3 seasons of eligibility remaining, because he was at Virginia Tech in 23 and 24. I don't know that he played, but pretty big get for Vanderbilt.
Is he a speed guy, Mo? Is he a speed guy?
I don't know that he's necessarily a speed guy. I just think he's really a sure-handed guy, runs routes really well, that kind of thing. I don't know if you would necessarily classify him as a guy that could take the top off, that kind of thing, but I feel like he's a guy that, with a Pavia at quarterback and with some of the other I never thought I'd necessarily be saying this, but with some of the other weapons that they have at Vanderbilt, I think he really meshes in well with what they've got. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And Vanderbilt has had some success with some local kids. They've not necessarily been able to hang on to them, but I mean, Junior Sherrill played at Lipscomb. The kid that transferred to Georgia, that started at Vanderbilt after playing at CPA. I mean, they've been able to get some local kids in and have some success along those lines. And I think Fitzgerald, having been in an ACC program and that kind of thing, this kind of gives him a new lease on life coming into a suddenly, resurgent Vanderbilt program. I think they're really excited to get him. I think he's excited to be coming home. So should be interesting.
I know Vanderbilt really struggled trying to find that secondary receiver to replace London Humphreys that could stretch the defense. He transferred from Georgia after a great freshman year at Vanderbilt, and that kind of left them lacking that second vertical threat. Obviously, you mentioned Junior Sherrill, who's a speedster, Lipscomb Academy, really did a nice job for them. And, they mentioned they could use a possession receiver as well. Quincy Skinner Jr. kind of served as that guy for them this year. But I think Vanderbilt's always looking to add some skill to that offense. And as you mentioned, with Pavia coming back, trying to hold on to Cedric Alexander, there's some pieces on that offense that can make Vanderbilt's offense exciting. And I think that is something that has not been said the last couple of off seasons. So I guess that's a hat tip to Clark Lee and the job that they've done with Tim Beck and Jerry Kill over the last year.
Oh, it's absolutely a hat tip to what they've done. And I think Pavia coming back kind of energizes that entire program, obviously, but also in a way that, you want to go out and you want to try to get as many people around him as you can. You want to try to maximize his time here, because there's not another one walking through the door.
Yeah, Mo, their SEC schedule next year is so brutal, though. You're going to Texas, you're going to Alabama, you're going to South Carolina, and at Tennessee. I mean, I don't know who Vanderbilt pissed off on the schedule makers aspect of the SEC, but, I mean, that road schedule in itself is a murderer's row. You have to play LSU at home. So, I mean, that schedule is just tough. So, I mean, you're looking at 7 wins max, maybe, if you beat Kentucky and Auburn at home and you win all your non-conference and maybe sneak in another SEC win. But that's a tough job for Vanderbilt. But I think that's even more the reason why this year that Clark Lee won SEC Coach of the Year, because with the resources that they have over there and the schedule that they face, for them to have a winning season and go 7-6, be one of the few SEC teams that actually win their bowl game, I think that's a hat tip to them. They played really well in the Birmingham Bowl against Georgia Tech. They played really well.
Did. And I think, to your point, though, the fact that they go into 25 looking at potentially 7 victories, I mean, I think you got to be real about things if you're Vanderbilt. Anytime you are bowl eligible, you are ahead of the game, I think. And the fact that you can look at that 25 schedule and see potentially 7 victories, even if it's a little bit of a stretch, that's not a bad place to be when you're Vanderbilt, I don't think. So
no, and I guess the biggest compliment you can give them is SEC teams go into next year not circling Vanderbilt as, oh, that's an easy win. They'll lay down for us. No, that Vanderbilt team will fight, and they'll scratch and claw to win a football game. I mean, they competed with Texas, only lost to Texas by 3. They're in the semifinals this year.
Right. Former Summit standout Destin Wade, who signed with Kentucky out of Summit, transferred to Colorado, is on the move again. He is now at North Alabama. The school confirmed it earlier this week. There's an article on MainStreetMurray.com regarding the transfer. Obviously, this will be his 3rd school years. Didn't get on the field for Colorado this past year. He and his twin brother Keaton both transferred out there. Keaton had a solid 2 years up at Kentucky and played in 6 games out at Colorado this past year. Apparently, he is staying put. So Destin Wade will compete for the QB1 spot down at North Alabama. The Lions 3-9 this past year. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, it is Throwback Thursday. We will throw it back to our recent conversation with Scott Ramsey of the Nashville Sports Council. So stay tuned when we come back from this break.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We're pleased to have with us the president and CEO of the Nashville Sports Council, which makes him basically the face of the TransPerfect Music City Bowl, Scott Ramsey. Scott.
Hey guys.
What's up?
How are you?
I'm great. I don't know if that's a good thing to be the face of something. I've been told that's not necessarily a good thing, Mo.
No. In your case, it's just fine. Trust me. In our case, well, I won't even speak for Wade. In my case, maybe not so much, but no, you're just fine, man. We appreciate you taking some time with us. Busy week for you last week, man.
Yeah, it really was. It was an exciting week, really. I think that week always is exciting. A lot of adrenaline. The week you select your teams, and every year is a little different. And then Tad on it, a couple days ago, being able to announce that we landed the opportunity to host the FCS National Championship game in 26 and 27 at Vanderbilt. It just added to the excitement. So we're really looking forward to these next 2 or 3 years here, and what comes of postseason college football, but more importantly, the chance to host a national championship game for the FCS next year.
Now, Scott, I know that bowls are really kind of arranged marriages nowadays, more so than ever. But you guys had Iowa 2 years ago. What's the level of excitement for you all and for Hawkeyes fans coming back here for the second time in 3 years, do you think?
Well, it's positive for a couple things. I think if you look back 2 years ago, my 30 years here, that was one of those unique situations where, if you recall, we had the bowl game slated for a Saturday early kick. Thursday night was Cowboys Titans. And boy, once that game was announced in early September, whenever in the summer, Cowboys fans ate up every hotel room in the city. On top of it, we had Kentucky that year, who played Louisville in the basketball game that day. We had a snowstorm, and then, if you remember, Southwest had that reservations crash that week. So it really limited.
I do remember,
fans.
actually.
And I feel like it's a mulligan for the Iowa fans. They really wanted to come. I think Monday this year is the game day, being the only game on, gave them a chance to travel Saturday, Sunday. And then the same for Missouri. They wanted to come. This was a matchup actually we had in COVID year. Speaking of a few days we want to forget, after the bombing downtown on Christmas Day and getting everybody settled down, and then an outbreak of COVID on Missouri's campus caused us to have to cancel the game. So I'm anxious to finally put it together. Both teams are really excited about coming. They don't play each other often. They've only played one time since 1910, which is kind of ironic when they're bordering states. So I think we're going to have a great game on the field. We're going to have a lot of out-of-towners here, and I encourage all local people to come out. That's probably where we're a little slow right now, Mo, is just not a big alumni presence for these two schools here like we normally have in Nashville. We kind of have that luxury. You can probably name 6 SEC schools that have big alumni bases here. And unfortunately, Missouri's not one of them. So I think we'll see a lot of out-of-towners. So really encourage the locals to come out and enjoy a day of college football.
Absolutely. And Scott, you kind of laid a lot out right there that kind of went against you guys a couple of years ago. But despite all that, and despite Kentucky sitting out a lot of players that year, it was still an impressive game. And I was impressed being there that day with the Iowa fan base. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together as far as the hotel situation, but I do think given a little more a fair shot at getting some of those rooms, I think they're going to travel well. And I would imagine Missouri probably would as well this go around.
Yeah. There's always a lot of variables in attendance, especially now. We know that with the 12-team playoff kind of dominating not just the media, but the focus of all the teams. But I think there's always a couple key things weighed on kind of what lends its success to Nashville specific. One is our geography, obviously. But for these two schools, as an example, being able to come in on Saturday, Sunday, have the game on Monday, and then you got the holiday on the backside, it really gives you that great travel window. Versus if this game was on a Wednesday, they got to work Monday, Tuesday. It just kind of shifts your decision making. And, I think right now, the chance, the way ticketing market works, you can kind of wait it out a little bit, if you make a last minute decision maybe that's price driven, maybe that's weather driven. So hopefully we'll be able to answer both of those and see a really good crowd on Monday in Nissan Stadium.
I'm looking forward to it. And you mentioned, I do love the aspect that it's the only game being played, kind of a lot of eyes fixated. And I think this will be a sneaky game. I'm sure you've heard this already. But I mean, it will be interesting too, because everybody's going to be in black and gold. So depending on who wants to maybe take credit how the game goes, they can maybe claim a bigger ownership of the fan base at that point, right?
I think both teams are going to claim credit for having the entire fan base here. But hey, that's just me being maybe a little cynical. But no, it is kind of ironic that they're both black and gold and are bordering states and be coming from the same direction down to Nashville. So it'll be tough to tell unless you're going to count license plates, I think. We don't have a big parking lot anymore either. We got some stadium going on right there in the parking lot. So we'll have to just kind of look for the sweatshirts downtown, I think.
Should be interesting for sure. Scott Ramsey with the Nashville Sports Council joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Talking a little bowl activity, and also the FCS championship games coming to Nashville and to Vanderbilt's First Bank Stadium at the conclusion of the 25 and at the conclusion of the 26 seasons. So it'll be in January of 26 and January of 27, but it's basically your 25 and 26 championship games.
Right.
Which gets a little confusing if you're not careful.
Good thing I had you to lay that out there, because I get tongue-tied on that one. But I'm really excited about this. I think a couple things. One is a national championship game. I think anytime you get a chance in your city to host a national championship, it's special. We've only had two in my 30 years here. U.S. Women's Golf Amateur we had a few years ago, and then the Women's Final Four in 2014. So, a national championship at any level is special. And we're going to work hard to make it and elevate that event to make it hopefully representative and memorable for those. But secondly, I think when you look at the business side of it for us, I think it really checks a lot of boxes. I think, if you kind of study the history here a little bit in Frisco, it's about a 20,000 seat soccer stadium. They've sold out 13 straight years, not counting COVID, early. So I think with a chance to kind of come in a football stadium a little larger, with the renovations are done, low 30,000s with the clubs and the suites now at Vanderbilt, come to Nashville as a destination, and then pick and choose some of the events that we've done. Obviously, the Battle of the Bands and some events that we've done for the players. We're talking to the NCAA about, but more importantly, I think just kind of elevate the whole experience is what we're going to work on. I think the other thing from a business standpoint is it took the slot of the former CFP national championship game slot. So it's a Monday night all by itself, prime time on ESPN, that first Monday night in January. So again, fans can come in the weekend, enjoy the game, celebrate the game, and then go home. So I think it's a perfect travel window after the New Year's Eve event that we have in Nashville. So really bullish on it. I think it's really going to exceed some expectations of people here that don't know a whole lot about FCS football. You see the upper Midwest kind of dominating right now on the field, the Dakotas and the Montanas and the Idahos. And I tell you, after we announced and made the presentation to NCAA and won the bid, I got a lot of notes back saying we can't wait to come and we're going to show up. So looking forward to it.
This thing was in Chattanooga for a long time, Scott, and I'm sure I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but I mean, was that something that you all looked at, or were you all ever looking at that when it was in Chattanooga at all?
No, we weren't really. It had kind of done a couple long-term deals, and it was in the middle of a long-term deal with Frisco. I'm not sure they would have kind of bid it out unless Frisco hadn't gone into a stadium renovation next year. So it kind of opened up the NCAA to look. That's why it's a 2-year bid. I don't know if they're thinking about kind of extending or re-engaging Frisco, but it was a 2-year bid, and we got the chance to put it on here, and we'll see how it goes and go from there with the NCAA. But we really just started kind of looking at it in the past year or so when the NCAA reached out and says, hey, this is going to be coming up for bid. And We think you might be a city of destination that we're hearing a lot from our membership. What do you think? And that's when we kind of married everything together. We partnered with Beth the Bush and the Ohio Valley Conference, which actually plays SCS football, had 3 teams in the 2014 field this year, as you know. And then went to Candace and said, hey, what about this opportunity? And operationally, it really fits as well. And, the teams like to practice near the stadium. You got an indoor, you got an outdoor, you got turf, you got grass, you got it all right there. And, we just felt like it really kind of fell in place for us.
With the bowl game and this, operationally, as you said, what are your concerns about being able to cover all of your bases in terms of both of those events within about a week or so of each other?
Yeah, it'll be back to back. It's going to be a lot of work. There's no doubt about it. It's going to take a lot of advanced organization, but I really got confidence in our staff, our volunteer leadership, and our community. I got confidence in Vanderbilt from the stadium operations standpoint. They're going to partner with us on that. So I really feel confident that, that we'll be able to do it seamlessly. But it's a lot. You got some weather that time of year. I got the New Year's Eve event, kind of right in the middle of it. So it'll be a big lift, but I'm confident that will be a great representation for Nashville in the end.
You said it's a 2-year bid. Would you, if they were to rebid it after that, is that something that you feel like you all would be interested in, extending, or do you need to get into it and see first?
Yeah, I think we left it as in, let's see where it is at that point. The NCAA may have some obligation to go back to Frisco, given how they, with the renovation. I don't know that. I'm just putting that on the table and see how it goes here. We got a lot of partners in play. Did it work for Vanderbilt? Did it work for the city? Did it work for everybody? Did it work for ESPN? Did it work for NCAA, FCS? So I think it's they bid it for 2 years, and we've got it. And I think that conversation will happen at the right time here in a year or so.
Scott, I want to ask you one more real quick about the Music City Bowl, really just about the process in general. What does your selection Sunday look like? Do you have a war room? Are you I know it can be kind of stressful, especially because I've listened to you on another podcast kind of breaking down, almost like draft selections, right? So I'm curious how that process unfolds, and maybe in particular this year, how that process unfolded for you guys.
Well, it certainly changed, especially changed since COVID. I think Marie said a while ago, kind of arranged marriage. It is that on the SEC. Just a lot of conversations, a lot of what ifs. You're not sure, this particular year, was Alabama going to get in or out? And then that changed the whole dynamics and the domino effects of who went where. But I think we all work together really well. You've got 6 or 8 bowl games. Everybody's looking out for their city. You've got 6 or 8 teams looking out for their team and who they want to play and where they want to go. Then you got the conference office trying to kind of deal the cards the best they can. 10 years ago, yeah, it was a straight draft. I mean, man, you pick third, you're up, who you want, and here's the rules. And the rules were pretty simple at that point. We have that a little bit modified on the Big Ten, where, in the 6-year agreement we signed in 2019, we could only repeat a team once in the 6 years. That'll be Iowa for us after this year, so we can't pick them next year, for example. But other than that, it was kind of an order, and there's a 2-team rule or 2-win rule, which there has been since I got in this business 28 years ago. So what changed the dynamic late for us on the Big Ten was the Michigan win over Ohio State. Tampa picks right in front of us, the old Outback, which is ReliaQuest now, and they decided to go with Michigan over Iowa, and that left Iowa for us at 8 wins. And one of the things you kind of look at is uniqueness of matchup, like I mentioned, one time in 100 and some years, bordering states, 8-win team, 9-win team. And when you move up, you got to respect some of the successes they had on the field. And 17 wins in those 2 conferences really, I think, says a lot. When you don't make the playoff. I mean, now you start getting 3 or 4 or 5 teams in the playoff, it can really kind of make some things differently. So, I'm excited about it. And, the process continues to get tweaked. but it's going to get overhauled. We all know it in 26. So it's really this year and next year, and then we'll see where we are. I like where we are in Nashville. I like the opportunities ahead of us. Don't know what those are going to be yet because the commissioners are going to set those, but I like where we are and the opportunity for us to take advantage.
Scott Ramsey of the Nashville Sports Council joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And Scott, shifting away from football for just a second, because while this is a fantastic football team, not team, there's a lot of other stuff going on here. What is the Sports Council's involvement with Athletes Unlimited basketball that's coming to Municipal in February?
Yeah, I think there's certainly been a push, as you know, for a professional women's sports team here. You've got to have a lot of key things lined up. A, you got to have an owner. 2, you got to have a facility. 3, you got to have a league that's ready to expand or relocate. We haven't been able to kind of line those up yet, but I think Athletes Unlimited gives us that opportunity. It's professional women's basketball. They play their entire season in one city, and I can't tell you the exact number of games, but it's going to be over a 5-week period of Municipal Auditorium. It's players from WNBA, players from Europe, players coming out of college, and they're here. They're anchored in for 4 to 6 weeks, and a lot of games and a lot of opportunity to see some professional women's basketball. Hopefully that'll set the stage for what's to come. Don't know what that is yet, but I think we have learned that if you do things well, your reputation and opportunities will continue to present themselves, and I think that'll be one of them.
I did want to drop back for just a second, because you made a comment while we were discussing the FCS situation and the NCAA coming here from Frisco. They reached out to y'all initially. Is that right?
Yeah, they did initially. I think that I guess I did say that because it's fact. I didn't think about it until you just mentioned, but I think we ought to be pretty proud as a city when that starts happening. I remember talking to you in early 2000s where we were begging people to pick up the phone on the other side, right, and give us a chance. And now people are looking at us as one of the top destinations in the country for sporting events, and I think it's something we all as citizens ought to be pretty proud of, because hosting events takes everybody. I mean, it's the hospitality community, it's the tourism community, it's the venues. It's the volunteers, it's the police, it's the public works that pick up the trash at the end. And, we're just thankful that everybody kind of pulls in the same direction. And, the NCAA reached out. They actually came down for 2 days to kind of look at everything. We're going to, Gaylord Opryland's willing to host the teams in a very similar model that we do for the Bowl. We're going to try to stage a battle of the bands like we do to showcase a fan event downtown on Broadway. And then certainly the games at Vanderbilt rather than Nissan Stadium, but they did come down, and we at that time really got serious about putting the bid together. They sent out the bid. I think they said 10 or 11 cities bid on it. They narrowed it to 5, and we were fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do it here for 2 years.
I would just think, to everything that you just said, when folks are calling you, that's that's pretty significant, I would think.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes you reflect, and I'm sure you do it too when you drive downtown sometimes for some events. But I think reflecting back a little bit is kind of thinking about kind of the evolution of that, in that, we just kind of did anything and everything we could to kind of build a reputation, and then just kind of kept stacking events and successes. And Women's Final Four and the All-Star game for the NHL that we changed, the SEC basketball tournament we got anchored in here, the NCAA tournaments, the women's amateur, the NFL draft, and so I think when they do call, unfortunately now we're so busy, it's not easy to always chase everything. I mean, we're looking longer out. You have to have more resources, more rooms, more convention center space, longer times in arenas, and it's not always available. So I was really excited when this opportunity came up, because everybody was on board, and initially we didn't have to shuffle a lot of existing contracts or conventions or things like that. So I'm looking forward to it.
With the caveat that you may not be able to answer this, what have y'all turned down?
Well, I think if let's see, let me kind of go back in my head here. I'm getting old, Maurice, so I got to kind of think a little longer than I used to. But I think a couple things. I don't know if it's a hard turn down, but I think some of it was very strategic. When we did the long-term deal with the SEC men's basketball tournament, 16, 17, somewhere in there. So we've got that extended out through 2035. Yes, we had a couple women's in there, and now we're on a straight run for the men's. When we did that, between the mayor's office, Convention Visitors Corporation, the Predators, Convention Center, everybody was in the room, and we said, hey, if we can land this, a couple things. The Predators were willing to give up the arena for 8 days in the middle of March. We can't do another event over another weekend in the last 3 weekends of the regular season for the NHL, trying to make the playoffs. We can't eliminate that from the NHL having us not being able to schedule at home. So that eliminated us from bidding on the in-state first and second rounds, which is a periodic once every 3 or 4 years, a women's Final Four in the arena, a Frozen Four in the arena, which we thought was strategically really good because those events could hit maybe once every 3 or 4 years if you're lucky. But we got the SEC men's tournament locked in through 35, which now you got Texas, Oklahoma coming in. We got Wednesday to Sunday packed, massive TV, massive media, massive fans. So I think we've gotten a lot more strategic. I'm kind of dodging your question a little bit, but as we look longer out, we've got to make some pieces fit. And to do that, it takes a lot more kind of planning.
Great. Scott, as always, we appreciate you taking some time with us, man. Get some sleep because I know it's getting ready to heat back up for you here in the next few days. But thank you so much, and we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is David Wilson. It's always great when we can catch up with Scott Ramsey and get a little look into the inner workings of the Nashville Sports Council. They always got a lot of great stuff going on down there. And it's always great when we can catch up with a guy like our next guest, Russ Pulley, Nashville-based Southeastern Conference football official, among other things, joining us here, sporting his Preds gear as
Yeah.
hope springs eternal. Man, you're a brave man. But Russ Pulley joining us here. Russ, we appreciate you taking some time with us, and just
my pleasure, Maurice.
Yeah, I wanted to reach out to you because it became it was announced, I guess, during the Pinstripe Bowl this weekend that was your last game as a college football official. And I thought, you know what? We've never had Russ Pulley on the show. We need to fix that.
Well, well, you are correct that the announcement was accurate. I decided in February of this past year that I would make this my last season, and it became official last week. So thanks for having me on.
What prompts an official to shut it down?
Well, a lot of things, but I'm 66 years old. And when I turned 60, I started looking at each season and evaluating whether or not I would come back for another season, based on a lot of things, based on performance, based on how I feel about the season, the upcoming season, whether or not, you have the desire to come back and prepare, because preparation is a lot of preparation that goes into a season. And for me, it became one of those things where I talked about it with the boss, and I don't want to deteriorate at all. And I really didn't feel like I was deteriorating in terms of my performance. And the boss didn't either, but you don't want to get to the point where you look at your previous season and say, well, I should have left a year ago, because that's always the talk among officials. And there's also this thing in the officiating community that many people say that officials don't really know when to leave, and I didn't want them to tag me with that. So, the third component is, I work in the middle. And, the NFL doesn't do that anymore, but college does. And you tend to take a little bit of a beating. And for the first time in my career, even though I made the decision in February to leave, first time in my career, I ended up getting banged up and having to miss time on the field. I broke my leg, tore my hamstring, and had a high ankle sprain at the hit at Arkansas. And so I was out for 4 weeks. And fortunately able to come back and work the last 2 games in the bowl season. But that's always a concern of mine when, how much longer can I call it cheating death in there. So I was really comfortable with the fact that this would be it for me, and made that decision in February, and I feel good about it. It's a little bit bittersweet because, when you leave 25 years doing something, and it finally hits you, and it just hit me last week, then I have to deal with that. But I'm still comfortable with the fact that I'm happy with the career and happy to be retiring, and also happy to let other officials who have been working hard to get in the Southeastern Conference. This creates a spot for somebody else as well.
It's funny that you say that specific concept right there, Russ, because, I work a lot with sports at the high school level, as does David, and we hear that people aren't getting into officiating. So, I mean, where...
I got my little grandbaby over there.
I understand. Are there people coming along to fill your spot?
Yeah, well, we definitely are. We feel like we're in good shape in the immediate future. But you bring up a good point, because we need to we need to really work hard to fill the pipeline, and in some ways that is we're struggling with that at the high school level, and as we develop them moving on forward, because there really is you have to have so many agencies linked together and so many different organizations working together to get people from the beginning of an officiating career to our level into the NFL level. And there is no real organized way to go about doing that right now. So we really rely upon others who rely upon others who rely upon others to really get people in the pipeline. And I think there's a lot of steps missed along the way. For example, where we get officials, what kind of person makes a good official? Those things are often a little bit, it's an inexact science. So, but we do need, for example, ex-players tend to really understand, have a feel for the game that others don't have. So that's a really good starting point for people. So we need to really market ourselves better to ex-players than we're doing.
Russ, as members of the sports media, as fans, there's nothing like Saturdays in college football and the atmosphere and the pageantry that comes with college football, and particularly, the SEC. You've got to live that the last 25 years. What's that like? Going in some of these SEC environments, and just the crowd, the noise, the pageantry, all that, and kind of rank some of your top atmospheres, if you can recall, from your days on the field.
Christian, I'm on the phone. Well, I'll tell you, I've really been fortunate, and if you really look at the last 25 years, I really feel like that's been sort of the golden age of the SEC. Look at what the Southeastern Conference has done. Look at how many different SEC teams have been national champions, and how many times the SEC has been playing in the national championship. That tells you where the best football is. And this is a key right here. In the last Southeastern Conference officiating crew worked the national championship, it was the 2004 season. So in my entire career, I've never had the opportunity to work that game because we don't get it. Why? Because we have teams in it. Right. And you think about how it's spread out. Your point is really well taken, because it's a great league, and we really feel like that the environment and the atmosphere and the importance of the games is really pretty incredible in the regular season. So I've been fortunate enough to work those, and it does. There's nothing like a tough, meaningful conference game. When I say that, they're all meaningful, but those where you have, like Alabama and LSU playing, you're going to go to the CFP. Back in the day, it was Tennessee and Florida when I first started. And you work that game with Urban Meyer and Philip Fulmer. Those were really tough games, and you knew when you were in one of those. And then you got the traditional rivalries like Georgia, Auburn, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. And you go into those games, and it's a totally different kind of football game. And it doesn't matter what the score is or what's on the line. Those rivalry games will test you, and those have been really good. To the question of people often ask me what the favorite venues are. I really don't have a favorite, because nearly all of our schools create a unique environment of their own. I mean, you go into LSU, and there's nothing like that. A night game at LSU. My last conference game was Alabama and Auburn, and there's no better environment than that. It doesn't matter what's on the line for that game. I remember working that game when it was one of Coach Tuberville's last games, and he knew he was going to take a beating. He only brought 65 players to the game, and he told us that. He said, "Let's get this thing over as quickly as possible." I said, "Coach, there's 60 minutes on that clock. We can't rush that." And they did take a beating, but it had been a while since Alabama had won that game. And the remarkable thing to me is when a score is as lopsided as that is, typically the crowd leaves. There was nobody left, and they were screaming just as loud for the last touchdown as they did the first one. So those are kind of things that we get to experience that I think nobody else does, really. And they don't have that in the NFL. They don't have that in other leagues. You know, they've got a little bit of it, but they don't have it. To the extent that we do. So it has been a privilege to be a part of all that and to experience it. But as an official, at the same time, we have a job to do. So, condition yourself not to get too caught up in the emotions of the environment, and you do your job and you focus on doing your job properly. So that can be a little bit of a challenge when you're first coming into the league.
Russ Pulley, longtime college football official out of Nashville, joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Russ, you talked about getting folks into the pipeline for officiating. Take us through your progression from non-official to one of the SEC's finest.
Well, thank you for that. And I will. I was born as a baseball umpire into officiating. My dad was a baseball signer. So when I was basically 16 years old, he got me officiating as a baseball umpire. And that's how I broke in, earned some stripes. And what's interesting is, that was in Virginia. And my career, I was an FBI agent. And when the FBI sent me to Nashville in 1985. And when I came here, I was coaching a women's basketball team out at, Westminster Presbyterian. And I know you're going to know these names, Maurice, but Bill Harris and Doris Armstrong were the two guys who were officiating my basketball games. And they were there at every game. And we started talking. And I told them I was a baseball umpire. So they got me involved in umpiring down there in just the little leagues. And then I started calling high school ball. And then I was exposed to guys who were doing all three sports. So I did all three sports at the high school level until my son was born, and I just cut it down to football. And at that time, football was a passion of mine. I really loved doing it, and we made it a year-round thing there. We started preparation in January for the upcoming season, and never really thought about doing college ball at all. And then, a buddy of mine with whom I worked, he jumped into the college arena, and so I remember working the 97 state championship game, made the decision I was going to give that a whirl, and finally and jumped into it and started progressing. The Ohio Valley Conference hired me, and then I spent a little time 1 year in the Sun Belt, and Bobby Gaston met me and put me on his list, and 2 years later I was on his active roster. So that was my progression. Many people do it differently. But there's really no set path for anyone, but you do need to develop. In high school is a really good place to develop because you get a lot of snaps working. Little league on Saturday, high school on Friday, freshman games on Thursday, middle school games on Wednesday. That's a lot of snaps that are valuable in your development stage.
Not all at the same skill level, obviously.
No, but you still learn at that level for sure.
Yes. Watching. I typically, Russ, watch sporting events with my cell phone in one hand and with my eye on the screen. But friend of the show, Ryan McGee at ESPN McGee, tweeted out Saturday, and Ryan is a friend of officials as well. His dad officiated in the Atlantic Coast Conference for a long time, but he says, good on the Pinstripe Bowl TV truck for recognizing umpire Russ Pulley working his final game after 25 years as an SEC official. He's also spent 40 plus years in public service as a firefighter, paramedic, police officer, state trooper, FBI agent, and Department of Labor investigator. It sounds like to me, Russ, that officiating is the least interesting thing you've done.
Well, that depends on who you talk to. So it seems like anytime anybody ever invites me to speak, at any event, whether they want to talk about, things I did in the FBI or whatever. Football seems to be the most interesting when the questions start pouring in. But I've been fortunate enough to work in areas that I really enjoyed, and that progression was fun for me. So it's been really good in both arenas.
And just the fact that you had the opportunity to be recognized on a national level like that, I would imagine that has to mean a lot, because I know that it's not something that you get into for the recognition, but at the same time, it's sure nice to get it when it comes.
Well, yeah, I certainly don't seek that out, and I did see that. The reason I saw it is when people heard what was put out at the Pinstripe Bowl. I received quite a few comments from friends of mine and others, and they did pass that along, and that was awfully kind of Ryan McGee to do that. I'll say that for sure. That was really nice of him.
Russ, one of the great things about being an officiating, I know this, I work basketball at the high school level, is the relationships that you get to build with your comrades, your fellow officials. As you kind of reflect on that in your career, who are some people that come to mind, just the friends and relationships that you've able to build over the last 2 decades?
There's no question that's the case. I think lost prop there. Any official will tell you that the most important thing about officiating to them is the relationships and the bonds that they create with their fellow officials. Crews, they tend to be like teams when you play team sports because you really rely upon one another, and there are things you do for one another that are unmatched. You go through thick and you go through thin. I mean, we've been on crews where we had some pretty major misses, and you really sort of you gather around people when that happens. And I've been on crews where we've done really well, but you really need each other during those times, because people who don't do this, and if you've officiated, you understand this, that we don't set out to do bad things. And when it happens, it really, we're mortified by it. I mean, nobody really hurts any worse than the officiating community when we do something that's wrong. So having your comrades around is definitely helpful. But you're right. There's a lot of relationships that I cherish. And fortunately for me, I've had really good relationships with coaches and really good relationships with players. There were players because in the trenches you tend to get to know each other pretty well when you work teams a lot. Like I worked Alabama. I can remember working them a bunch when they were in the Barrett Jones era, for example. I ran into Barrett at the championship game this weekend, and we had a really nice chat. And we've stayed in touch with each other at some level. And William Vallejos, the center on that line, we still stay in touch with one another, and that comes from the relationships that you build while you're officiating and they're playing. So those things are good as well.
Russ Pulley, Nashville former college football official, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Russ, you talked about misses, and David does some basketball. I do a little baseball, a little basketball, but certainly not at that level. But do you remember a miss? Is there a miss that sticks out for you?
You know what? I remember most of the misses. I don't remember the good calls, but I remember the misses. And I'll tell you, being as you asked, I'll tell you a really funny miss story. So it's 2005. I think I know one of the teams was Georgia, because that's what I called it on. I think it was Georgia and South Carolina, but it was 2005. And if you've noticed over the period of time from 2005 to 2024, the game has changed significantly, and the way we officiated has changed significantly. You know, Bobby Gaston was our supervisor at that point in time, and we were considered a quote unquote let them play league, and let them play. We didn't call a whole lot of fouls, and so I remember in that game, my back judge running up to me saying, "Well, that's 23 straight quarters since you've called a holding foul," and so I'm like, "Get on out of here." So we had this play where there was a block out in the flat, and a Georgia lineman cut one of the South Carolina linemen, and it was from the 20-yard line. So it was going to be half the distance to goal either way. It's going to be 10 yards. And I saw him wrap his arm around the back part of the defender's leg, and I threw a flag. And I said, well, you know what? It's going to be either 15 or it's going to be 10 either way, so I'm going to call holding, you know, because the arm wrapped around the back. Well, it really was neither. It was as far from a hold as you could possibly get. And back then, the block was legal. In today's rules, it would have been an illegal block, but it's a straight phantom. And guys I officiated with, we hated those kind of things. I remember calling my buddies and just screaming bloody murder. Oh, you aren't going to believe it. I had a phantom. It's terrible. Well, here's the funny part of this story is we don't forget these things. So 3 years ago, I was working a Sunbelt game. Now, this is literally almost 20 years since that happened. And this coach, it was Coastal Carolina and I think Arkansas State, because we worked the Southeastern Conference assigned the Sun Belt as well, and we got a Sun Belt game every year. So this coach comes up to me and says, "Hey, how are you? You may not remember me, but you used to work my games, and I was an offensive lineman at Georgia." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, how about that? I'm so glad you remember me." And I said, "When did you play there?" And he goes, 03 to 06. And I got to thinking, and I said, okay. So I went back to him, and I said to him, "Man, you know, I got to tell you, I had one of the worst calls I've ever made in the 2005 season." And he stopped me right there, and he said, "Cut block, out in the flat." I said, "Yeah." He said, "That was me." And so he was the guy I called it on. And I'm like, "Nick, I've been searching for you for decades. I apologize to you for that." And that was so funny. And I called my buddies up and told them about it. And they said, "Where else would something like that happen?" So we had a really nice laugh over that one. But yeah, I remember a lot of them. You know, I was on the crew that you know, we took it down away from Penn State. You might remember that a couple of years ago. Auburn and Penn State, and you know, I can walk you through the whole series of events that led up to it. But the bottom line is they punted on third down, and so when we got off the field and realized that happened, it's like, well, oops. So it ended up being a good experience for us because, you know, I gathered, you know, I was a veteran official at that point in time, and I gathered the troops together and said, "Boys, you know, we're going to poke our chests out. We're going to take this like men, and you know, we're not going to run from this like some do." And so we really did. We got our little suspension letter, and we got the 2 words "catastrophic failure" along with that letter. But you know, we're proud of the way we handled ourselves. It was a miss, and you got to own it. So those are probably the two stories of misses. But again, I still remember a lot of them. So we could go on and on.
You raise an interesting point there, Russ, because I think a lot of fans may not necessarily realize there are repercussions.
Oh yeah, there are repercussions, and we knew they were coming. Because I'm like, you know, you can't lose a down and not expect to get punished for it. And you know, the coordinator, we knew it was coming. We got it. He didn't like give us lashes or whatever. He knew we knew it was coming, and he gave it to us. And then we recovered from it, and everybody went on to have a great season beyond that. And you know, it all is in how you handle it. I mean, I don't think anybody, this year, I think you can remember the big misses, and fortunately, I wasn't a part of any of them. But when they happen, and there are repercussions when they happen. It's just that they're not made public.
All right. Nashville's Russ Pulley retiring after 25 seasons of Southeastern football officiating. Russ, should we look for you on a football field sometime? Maybe at the high school level or anything like that? Or
I would doubt that I'll ever be officiating again, but I have a real passion for development. So I'm gonna try to find some role somewhere, maybe with the SEC. They won't make those decisions for another couple weeks, but I do have an interest in development and helping officials develop. And so I will find some kind of role in that arena. I don't know whether it'll be at the high school level, to college level, or where it'll be, but that'll be what I'll seek out if I don't get offered something like that.
Awesome. Russ, we appreciate it. Salute you for your service, and look forward to seeing what happens next for you, man.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. Thanks for thinking of this, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. Maurice, I've known you for a while. Your work's always very good, and we'll always enjoy seeing it. So
thank you, sir. We appreciate
it.
Take care. You too. We'll catch up. Mark, break or no?
Not necessary.
All right. Then we will swing out of this segment and into our final segment here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It is the grab bag, and we're going to start with Southeastern Conference women's basketball, because they begin conference play tonight. They got a full slate of games. We mentioned it during the rundown. Vanderbilt is hosting Georgia tonight. Tennessee goes out to Texas A&M tonight, and trying to get up the rest of the schedule as we speak. And SECsports.com is not helping me any. But South Carolina and everybody else. But
I got you. You ready?
You got me. Come on.
Here we go. Georgia and Vanderbilt, South Carolina at Missouri, Mississippi State at Kentucky, Florida at Alabama, Ole Miss at Auburn, Tennessee at Texas A&M, Texas versus Oklahoma, little Red River to start it off. Number 5 versus number 9. That one's on 8 o'clock on ESPN2, and then Kim Mulkey and LSU traveling to Fayetteville at Arkansas. So that Texas Oklahoma will be good to start off the SEC schedule on ESPN2 tonight at 8 p.m.
Traditional SEC fans are going to kind of cringe at number 5 Texas, number 9 Oklahoma, both of them invading the conference. But I mean, this was one of the first things I pointed out when we heard that Texas and Oklahoma were coming. This was clearly a football move, but both those athletic programs are so good at so much other stuff. And again, this bears it out. Number 5 Texas, number 9 Oklahoma in an SEC matchup tonight that's nationally televised. So this is what you're gonna get. You mentioned South Carolina going to Como, the number 2 Gamecocks getting things started. But we try to talk women's basketball. We've not talked as much of it as we probably should, particularly here in the non-conference schedule. But there are some matchups here, and I don't know how Vanderbilt is not ranked. Tennessee's gotten up to 15, but this will be a heck of a test for them tonight going out to College Station. I think this one's on the SEC Network Plus as well. So, there's a lot of games tonight that have a little have a little juice to them as the SEC women's basketball season opens. Conference men's play begins on Saturday. We will have Blake Lovell with us tomorrow to talk about the state of the league as we head into the opening weekend of SEC play. So be sure and join us tomorrow for that as well. We mentioned New Year's Eve. Preds lost again, kind of like clockwork. It's I don't know. We've not talked as much about the Preds these days as probably I would like to, just because I don't know what else to say about them at this point.
Seems to kind of be the same song and dance over and over again. You might think they can turn the corner with a really good performance, and then they drop a couple in a row. So I know you and Kimmel and Wade have had some heart-to-hearts about the Preds, and it just doesn't seem like things are getting any better.
It really doesn't, man. And I mean, I don't want to campaign for somebody's dismissal, especially if it's not deserved. But, you know, we've said it here on these same airwaves before. We've seen coaches fired for less than this situation that we're looking at Bridgestone right now.
Right. And with the talent that they've had in the offseason that they had, with the pieces that they acquired, and just the star power that they have name-wise on their roster, you wouldn't think that they're at the bottom half of the league or the bottom third of the league.
No. So, I mean, you know, they won a couple of games there. They went 3-2 there on one stretch, I think. I think they won back-to-back once. And so things weren't as bad, but still pretty bad. So they go to Vancouver tomorrow night for a 9:00 puck drop. You can see it on FanDuel Sports. Also at 9:00 tomorrow night, Memphis is at Sacramento in the association. And if you want to talk about a team that's playing well, let's talk for a second about the Grizzlies, who are atop the Southwest Division at 23-11, a half game ahead of Houston. And it looks like there are not a whole lot of teams that have lost fewer games than the Grizzlies. Oklahoma City is 27-5. That's crazy. But again, the Grizzlies and Houston have each lost 11 games. The Celtics, the Knicks, the Cavs are 29-4. But there are only like 5 teams that have lost fewer games than Memphis has right now, which I would say bodes pretty well for them.
Right. And that's a talented Western Conference as well. So you have to tip your cap to them and what they're able to do. And I think it's what Taylor Jenkins has built down there, you know, a team first centric team.
Absolutely. Again, they play out at Sacramento tomorrow night, the 15-19 Sacramento Kings, who just fired their coach, Mike Brown, earlier this week.
For less. We've seen coaches fired for less.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
one of those cases.
Man, it's Mike Brown always seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I feel
this
bad
guy was
for
coach
him.
of the year. He was coach of the year a year and a half ago.
He got fired at Cleveland. He got fired by the Lakers. What, twice? Twice by the Lakers, right? Yeah.
No, twice by the Cavs, I think.
Twice by the Cavs.
By
okay. All right. Yeah. It's man. I feel bad for that guy. Anyway, that's going to do it for the Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Come back tomorrow. We are set to visit with Teresa Walker, and I forget who our other guest is, but Wade will be back in play. So, David, we appreciate it. What's the score?
3-0 Georgia in the second quarter. Just started it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. We'll keep an eye on that. We will see you all tomorrow at 2:00. Have a good one.